And this is it, the grand finale. Welcome in, boys and girls, to a semi-remote edition of the Three Man Weave Best Bets Show, the national title. UConn, Purdue. I should have hired John Fanta to do our intro for more zest there. But anyway, yeah, there needs no precursor intro. The stage is set for the two Goliaths of our sport, Jim. Final Four was awesome. We were there. I was just there. I just got back this morning. My body has completely broken down, which kind of leads me into my UConn takeaway. They are the bane of college basketball. It's whether it's the opposing team's body or spirit that breaks first. Eventually, they will crack, as Dan Hurley talked about in the post game presser. Bama with a very admirable effort, shot it well, but even the A+ games of opponents just don't even live up to snuff. So
Yeah, and not quite A+, I would say, but I mean, Alabama played an A
yeah, A
minus
minus.
game.
That's
They
fair. I
shot
agree with that.
45% from three, turned it over 8 times, but UConn turned it over 4 times and was pretty dominant on the glass. It's like Hurley talks about. It's the body blows that you deliver. If it's not the Mike Tyson uppercut like they gave to Illinois, the 30-0 run, it's just like the constant pressure of them making the right play over and over and over again. You keep feeling this pressure on the other team to play perfect, and it felt like maybe Alabama's jump shot started to feel like that. If this doesn't go in, we're going to give up an 8-0 run. They're going to get a dunk going the other way. UConn just has that air of inevitability, and even tonight against Purdue, I feel like that might end up delivering. Kyle, we don't need to jump all the way into the game yet if you want to discuss Purdue NC State, but yeah, I just think what we've continuously seen from UConn over the last two marches is pretty much what we're going to see again tonight.
Yeah, well, at least we got the title game that we wanted, fellas, right? UConn, Purdue, NC State, no offense, but nobody really wanted to see NC State
Get out of
in the
here.
Final Four
Get out of
Just so
here.
glad they made it
or
and
the
lost
title
by
game.
15. Thanks for showing up.
Yeah, Alabama played really well against UConn, and that's kind of the point about UConn. They are incredible. Alabama gave them their best shot. UConn, I'll mention later on in this preview. UConn has shot 30% from three in the tournament, and they still haven't come close to losing or not covering a spread. They've been incredible. They've been the best team in the country. Obviously, the tournament. We got the match we want. Number one, number two in KenPom. This is one of the best title games on paper in the last 20 years. It certainly should be a great one, especially with Edey versus Klingon. A lot of narratives there. Really going to be a fun one tonight.
Yeah, I'm just looking at the CBB analytics. So far, UConn shooting 31% through 5 games from three. That's the second worst of all of the Sweet 16 teams. He's kind of kept that going. So they haven't made shots, and it's still just been a complete domination. Pretty crazy. Purdue, for reference, 39%. So they've been actually on par with their season standards. I mean, people talk about the number one 3-1 shooting team in the country. They've had some off moments, but yeah, that's going to have to be, I think, a key tonight is they're going to have to make some shots. I just don't see any avenue to Purdue competing here unless shots go down. We'll see how they defend him up front. Before we get to the breakdown, Jim, do we want to talk about John Calipari and his overnight trip to Fayetteville in Tyson Chicken Country? Shouts to our pig suey natives out there.
Yeah, I
Happy for
will
you guys.
reveal to the people that behind the scenes, we had a long running discussion yesterday of whether this was real or not. We're kind of going back and forth among us three as we were traipsing around Scottsdale. Is this actually going to happen, or is this like the leverage play? Not that he needed a raise or more job security at Kentucky, but maybe that's what should have told us that it was real, that he actually wanted to get out, get over to a fan base with a little less pressure. It doesn't feel like they've got torches and pitchforks for him. Matt, I just don't like that he's stealing the spotlight from the national title game. As I tweeted, UConn and Purdue have been the best two teams all year. They've earned their day in the sun against each other. Ha! On the day of the eclipse. But yeah, I feel like we should focus on Purdue UConn, Matt, and we'll talk Calipari, coaching carousel, etc. on our Wednesday show. Unless Kai has thoughts to add from across the table from me here.
Crazy. Kentucky fans basically wanted him out. They basically forced him out. I say be careful what you wish for. Like, I don't think Calipari is a great X's and O's guy necessarily, but he's had Kentucky at the top of the sport every single season. He's gotten the best players in the country consistently. I'm not sure that continues to happen under just anybody else. Clearly if they bring in a guy like Billy Donovan, okay. But it's Calipari getting dudes, not Kentucky getting dudes, and you're going to see that in Arkansas. So we'll see what happens. I think Kentucky fans might be missing him in a year or two, is my guess.
Yeah, you don't watch out for Billy Gillespie. That's what I'm going to say. Yeah. You don't want somebody like that.
Oh, the Clyde. Wow. How about what if they got Joe Jones, the guy that they're going to shove to the back burner again after Clyde returns? That's who Kentucky should get. They should go after the Clyde replacement in Tarleton this year. Yeah, wild bids, as our buddy John Sapphire would say. Let's get to the Purdue angle here, Kai. I know we kind of got to jump the gun with the UConn breakdown, but I'll throw this at you for data, whatever, however you prefer to pronounce that word. Purdue is 8-0-1 against the spread as a dog since February of 2021. Not often have they been a dog, but obviously tonight against the juggernaut that is UConn, they will be. 6.5 is the number. Currently, Zach Edey is the only thing that UConn hasn't seen during this torrent run, not just this year, in last year. So you got to think, is that the ultimate neutralizer to UConn's dominance? I'm inclined to say yes, but I've been burned by UConn twice now, and I'm actually zigging against the Zag. I'm going to lay it with UConn. It's official.
I picked off 7.5 for Purdue at MGM earlier this morning. I'm betting against UConn again, whatever. Yeah, it's Clingan. It's Clingan and Edey. Clingan, can he stop Zach Edey? He's been awesome defensively all season, but as Dick Stillwagon in the chat pointed out, he has not played Zach Edey yet. I think Edey can get him in foul trouble. I think he will get his little hooks off, even against Clingan. And on the other end, Clingan is not nearly the offensive player Edey is. He's not as polished. I don't see Clingan winning the board battle or consistently scoring. And while UConn doesn't rely on Clingan for offense, it's still a big factor if he's completely neutralized. It becomes UConn running sets and hitting shots. And if UConn shoots 30% from three again, that matters more against Purdue, a team they can't necessarily get tons of second chances against or defeat in the post on a regular basis.
Yeah.
So I think the Clingan-Edey battle favors Edey. I think that is a big factor for this game.
Jim, real quick, Jim. I'm just going to insert data points here and interject throughout the show. Purse energy. Mr. Clingan has not allowed a post-up point in 8 of UConn's last 10 games. And only once this year did he allow more than 2 points via post-up. Anyone? That was against Josh Oduro at Providence.
Cite your source. Cite your source.
Synergy. Matt Eisenberg. Thank you
for
the research. Yeah. Sorry. Thank you. That was the tweeter. The data source was Synergy. This is going to be interesting because we saw Grant Nelson have some success out of nowhere. But I don't think Purdue has a guy like Nelson who can drive at Clingan and make him move laterally, but also has the explosion and length that Nelson had. Even Nelson was the level of difficulty of some of those baby hooks that he had late were, 11 out of 10. I just don't think Purdue has anything like that if you're trying to maybe come at him from a different angle, separate from Edey. But I don't think it's going to matter because it's going to be Edey versus Clingan, right? I don't think there's no wrinkles up Painter's sleeve with this matchup, is there?
Yeah, I think they're going to be who they are, which
right.
Illinois tried to be who they are, and that doesn't work. But their whole scheme is 5-out drive. And Purdue is not a driving team. Their guards don't put rim pressure on you, really, other than Braden Smith a little bit out of ball screen. They're bottom 45 in the country in percentage of shots at the rim, and that's with Zach Edey. So, that tells you how much everybody else does not shoot at the rim. That's why they're deadly from the perimeter, and perhaps they are kind of antidote to the way UConn defends. They can knock down shots over the top. They don't need to just go at Edey, or go at Clingan, in the paint to get points. One matchup that I am kind of intrigued by, and I don't know how he'll fare defensively, but Kaufman-Wren could potentially have a big game here. The way they kind of set that up with the dual post-up guys, one on each block, and Edey's getting so much attention.
Against Caravan, probably, right?
Yeah, against Caravan, who is a very good defender and underrated player overall. But he's given up a lot of size if it's Kaufman-Wren. And Kaufman-Wren's very good at getting angles. We know Purdue's guards are awesome at post entries. It's just something that they do so much of that they know how to find those angles. Kaufman-Wren could potentially get some closer proximity buckets, or if Clingan comes over to try to help on that, Edey put-back dunks are going to be all over the place on that kind of thing. So I'm keeping an eye on Kaufman-Wren's role. Are they going to have to go more Gillis than Kaufman-Wren? I don't know. I think this might be a Kaufman-Wren game, Matthias.
Yeah, he might be right. I feel like Gillis is the more look in the mirror type matchup against Caravan, right? But I kind of like the Coffin Run approach. Kai, I'll toss this to you. I know you're gonna wax
Give me,
poetic about your boy Braden Smith
give
here.
me.
One game,
Scary.
pick your point guard, choose your fighter. Who'd you rather have, Braden Smith or Steph Castle?
Or
Well,
Steph Castle.
I don't know.
It's not their point
I
guard.
with Jim here.
So many different guys. Well, no, we'll
He's
see.
gonna guard. I'm at the
Who's
head of the
UConn's
snake. Those
point
two will
guard?
be dueling.
Right. They have 3
Yeah,
point
they didn't really
guards.
have one.
Right, they have 3
Right, that's
Well,
why they're so damn good.
You bring up a good point about the perimeter, though. I am a little bit worried about the Purdue perimeter. UConn,
I'm very worried.
Far more athletic, more dynamic, much bigger.
Yeah, the length.
Purdue goes 6'6", and Foster Loyer is 6'4", so it's a not a long 6'4".
Yeah, he's not a rangy guy.
UConn goes 6'5", 6'4", 6'6", and they can all rebound and they can all defend. Castle's a great defender. Spencer is a bulldog, and Newton's a great defender as well, especially one-on-one. That worries me, and I'm very curious to see. We mentioned the Purdue shooting. How will they defend that? How will UConn defend that? Because we know they like to run shooters off the line in general, but Edey changes the calculus, right? They have to be aware of him clearly. Will they put Klingon on an island and just say, okay, Klingon takes Edey, no help off shooters? That's probably what I would do to start. But again, I think Edey still gets Klingon in foul trouble and scores on Klingon one-on-one. And if that happens, the strategy changes, right? You start to come off shooters, and that's where it can get a little hairy. However, this is still UConn. The perimeter size difference is enormous. The athleticism is enormous. UConn is still the better team in this matchup.
Yeah, that's my biggest worry, as I've kind of made the case for maybe there are some routes to offense for Purdue, but getting into sets with Castle, like getting all over Braden Smith, we saw him completely out of sorts against some of the NC State defenders. He had 5 turnovers in the first half, 2 over and backs. What are you doing, Braden? With a 6'6" lockdown athlete, lottery pick defender on him in Castle, I think that could be a little bit of an issue for Purdue. They're getting into what they want to run. Beyond that, I think Castle's a tough matchup on the other end, too. Just being, again, you talk about the length and the athleticism of those guards. You're going to have Lance Jones get under him. Fletcher Loyer can't guard him. And UConn just, picks on matchups. They pick at the scab until you have to adjust and do something else. And at that point, UConn's like, now you're playing our game. We're dictating everything. And that's when those body blows start to land. So, yeah, Matthias, between the perimeter length and quickness defensively for UConn, and then on the other end, I think that size and really their ability to score in the mid-range, Newton floater, Cam Spencer floater type stuff against the Edey drop. I'm with you. I am laying it with UConn. I think they win. I think they win going away. And I think we're just 12 straight games of total dominance in the NCAA tournament from UConn.
Cam Spencer, Fletcher Loyer. I'm going to bet they're going to be matched up against each other, and that I think will have some there'll be some jawing in that one.
Yeah. I saw in the chat, Dick said big game Fletch. I think this has got to be a little like Arizona, the Arizona game, where Fletcher and Braden Smith combined for 57 points. Edey only had 20 and 8 in that game. I think he could have a little bit of struggles inside, but if those guards play amazing, then you got a chance. But I just worry about the UConn perimeter defense.
In the chat, Strayface, how similar is Purdue to Creighton? Well, drop coverage, very similar. So interesting comparison there, Jim. Any thoughts on that? Can they do what the Jays did when they beat UConn? Got to hit a million threes, I think, is what it comes down to, honestly, if we really have a chance to win this game.
Yeah, defensively, the model's very similar. Don't force turnovers, keep Edey in the lane, take away the rim, force you to shoot jumpers over the top, not help off of the wing. That's why I think Castle, if you want to attack with him, or Newton off the bounce could have big games. In that mid-range, as Edey's hesitant to come out, you get some of those mid-range and floaters. And NC State missed all of them, but I trust UConn's guards to make those. So I do think that's an advantage to UConn. The other end of the floor, how similar is Purdue to Creighton? I'm not going to call it super similar. Purdue just runs such great sets. These two teams are probably the two toughest to prepare for on short turnaround because of their offenses.
Yeah, this will be a half-court methodical chess match battle of running long sets. It's funny, Matt, you had NBA TV on in the Airbnb 2 days ago, and I was listening to an NBA guy try to talk about this matchup, saying how Purdue needs to stop UConn getting out in transition. UConn's going to try to push the tempo and get on possessions. It's not the case. It's not how they play. It's going to be half-court versus half-court. It's scheme versus scheme. If you look at the side in total, I would lean towards the under in this game if you want to take a total side. From a fan perspective, I'd love to see scoring and high scoring game, but I think the under is probably the better play. And again,
I agree.
I'm gonna back Purdue here. KenPom makes a spread 3, but to the point in the chat, also historically great team UConn. In KenPom, this is the 5th best adjusted efficiency margin we've seen since 1997 from UConn, behind 21 Gonzaga, 15 Kentucky, 01 and 99 Duke. If UConn handles Purdue in this game, they could finish 3rd all time since 1997 in that number. Can't really compare year to year. However, it does sort of speak to the dominance that we've seen from UConn this season.
Yeah.
They really are historically a very, very good team.
Yeah, I'm less interested in debating how good is UConn compared to those other teams straight up. I feel pretty confident that in the last at least 10 years, it's the most dominant team relative to their field. And that's been pretty abundantly clear, I think, lately. So
Trivia.
Yeah.
How many times has Donovan Clingan fallen out of a game this year?
Ooh, I looked at this actually yesterday. Once. Zero.
How many times has Donovan Clingan had 4 fouls since
it's been a while.
February?
Yeah, 0, I think.
It has not been since DePaul on Valentine's Day.
Those demons went right at him. They challenged him, baby.
One question to both of you. How many minutes do you get out of Clingan? He played 29 last game. We know Edey's probably going all 40, assuming no foul trouble. Are those like dominant Purdue minutes with Clingan off the floor? I think they need to be. They should.
They need to be. Yep. I think he's going 30 at least. But hey, remember that? I mean, the wrist hand thing we probably should at least mention. Like he was asked about in the post-game presser. As Kai mentioned, he's not, for most players, that would clearly be a huge inhibitor, but Clingan's great because of his size and activity at the rim. He's not like shooting like touch shots usually. So I don't think the concern is that maybe on the shorter turnaround, Jim, I think I did notice in that Big East tournament, he did have kind of a lower minute count on the back-to-back, but still the day off is huge. It's the national title game. He's not going to hold anything back. He's going to be fine. So I don't read. I'm good with that.
I want to say, yeah, he said his hand's fine. The presser's bruised, whatever. Hurley smiled at him like he knew something. I don't know. Hurley, like
it was worse than it was or something. Yeah, no. Well,
but when Clingan
I bet we find out it's like it's broken after the game or something like that. Oh, sorry.
When Clingan got up off the stage, man, I understand he's a big dude and he just played a game, but he could barely walk. I mean, he was like lumbering down the stairs off the stage. Like, you're not playing 29 minutes against Zach Edey getting pounded all game long in the post. Yes, he hasn't fouled out of many games this year, or 0 this year, but who has he played in the Big East as a dominant post player? Like Josh Oduro is probably the best post player in the Big East he's faced, or season, all season. Zach Edey is head, shoulders, waist, thighs, knees, ankles above any other post player in the country. This is going to be a really a big challenge for Clingan defending him.
Samson Johnson, Jim, has been really good in kind of mop up garbagey minutes so far this tournament. I mean, I don't know if he has the girth to actually guard Edey 1v1, but he will have some looks for sure in that spot. He's going to have to live up for sure.
Samson Johnson is the one that is going to get 3 fouls in 6 minutes.
Yes,
he thinks he can block everything, and he's going to try to go through Edey, and he'll put him.
He's going to get put under the rim against Edey.
Yeah, do less, Samson. This is a get it and get rid of it, I think, type game for you, big guy, against Zach in the post. Final takes on the total. I think Kai alluded to Mylene as well. I like the under. I got hit under pretty quickly on the opener.
I'm on the first half under
Circa right now.
Big, Matthew.
Yeah, I like that. Sitting at 69, or sorry, 67 and a half, 69. Nice. What it opened at 67 and a half.
68 and a half.
I'm also 68.
Sharp one, sharp two.
So solidarity there. Okay, cool.
Sharp and sharper over here.
Out there still.
Do we want to unleash our official best bets? I just have one on the side, and that is UConn.
Same, Matt. I'm on UConn. -6.5 is a best bet.
Mr. McKeon?
Well, I guess the first half under is my favorite bet. I do think it's going to be a pretty slow start. Again, I expect to be methodical. I'm on Purdue on the side. Again, 7.5 at MGM is what it was this morning. I just think the number's way too high. I know the dominance from UConn. I know I've said the number's way too high for past several games. Alabama covered. They had the game tied with 6 minutes to go. I mean, they played a great game. UConn just blew them out at the last 5 minutes or so. So I don't think that was a bad bet. I expect Purdue to keep this one close. They are the number 2 team in the country. I think we get a really, really good game. I hope so for our sake, for our fans' sake. I like 7.5. And again, the under is the total direction I lean. First half under. Stronger play for me.
How about Mason Gillis over 5.5 points, Jim? Just a quick prop at the buzzer. Just looking at these on the
I don't know.
menu.
We kind of had the discussion about Kaufman-Wren, whether it's his game, but you also
He's
need
not
to space
posted.
the floor. So they'll probably split like 20 minutes. I don't have a strong enough take. I mean, I like Castle. I think he has another big game. Just like I think UConn is going to get him at like the free throw line, let him attack the smaller defender. He is devastating from there if you don't have the athleticism or size. So I think his point prop is 11.5. That would probably be my favorite one of the day, but it's not true best bet.
He's great on the glass too. He's been just relentless.
Yairo Bravo, my Spanish is bad, so sorry if I pronounced that name wrong in the chat. Our dude in the chat that we met at the Final Four, I believe. Yes, will Hurley send Klingon at Edey out of the gate? I kind of think he might test out the whistle early, like literally.
On the offensive end.
Like play through him offensively, see if the refs are biting on a couple cheap fouls early. Because as the chat has pointed out, and we've kind of alluded to, if Edey does not play 35 minutes plus, it's trouble for Purdue. They are in a lot of trouble. Their backups are still good. Kaufman-Wren is a great player, but they need Edey in the game for as long as possible. He cannot be in foul trouble if they want to win this game.
I don't think they're going to overly feature Klingon any more than I just think they're going to stick to their awesome stuff, and they're going to make Purdue guard which is the best assortment of plays and sets in the country, arguably. So I think if you're Hurley and you're Luke Murray, you say, hey, here's our best game plan going forward. We're not going to tweak too much unless you make us adapt, right? I think they come out with their game and they make Purdue adapt to them. That's what they should do, at least on offense, I should say.
Yeah. Remember the two UConn short turnaround games so far this
have been massacres.
Smoked Northwestern, and then 30-0 against Illinois. I think it's just so hard to turn around quickly against this team.
Well, yeah, we've heard Hurley hype up Kamani Young and Luke Murray, as we have as well on this show, and he did actually specify that Murray was assigned the Purdue scouts. I guess Kamani had the Final Four, the Bama matchup, and then Murray's responsibility was Purdue. So, yeah, good hands if you're a UConn fan or UConn backer. That concludes our show, our season.
Shout out to Circa. Thank you
Circa,
for making
the best
show happen
damn
daily.
sports book, period. Seize up. Hope to run that back next year. Thank you, Aaron, for making everything possible out there. Good luck to both of you surviving tonight and get out of the desert safely and soundly. Good luck to all of you out there on your wagers. And as always, may the 3-point variance be ever